Good Shabbos, everybody. You know, it's rarely hard to go after a bar mitzvah boy, but it's kind of hard today. We actually had two really good speeches, and again, I want to wish Mazel Tov to Ari's family and to Alex's family on a beautiful day. And of course, 2 weeks ago wasn't such a beautiful day for many of us on that Sunday. We, of course, learned about that horrific helicopter crash in California, where Kobe Bryant and his daughter and 7 other people were tragically killed when a helicopter they were in crashed on the way to a basketball tournament. But what our rabbis often remind us is when we see or hear or experience tragedies ourselves, we use the time afterwards not to try to turn the clock back, but to try to grow as people, to try to become strengthened, to try to learn from things that we see in our society, to try to better ourselves as human beings and as Jews. And so in these last 2 weeks, I think one thing many of us have learned, if there's any good that has come out of this horrific tragedy, is that we were all reminded of the importance of being good parents, good mothers, and good fathers. Here was an individual, Kobe Bryant, who certainly had made major mistakes many years ago, but seemed in recent years to have redeemed himself after his basketball career, going above and beyond, despite how busy he was, getting Oscars, writing books, doing interviews, staying involved. Still, most importantly, he was extremely involved with his daughters. How nice was it? Many of you may have heard the interview that was shown after the tragedy when he was asked, what was it like to have 4 daughters? Could you imagine 4 daughters? I have 1, and let me tell you, it's not easy. But when Kobe was asked after their recent baby was born and it was a 4th daughter, did he regret not having a son? And he said no. He wished he could have had even more daughters. And how nice was it to see the girl's dad, the hashtag girl's dad, go across social media. I think we were all reminded of the difference a good father, a good parent can make, especially for our daughters. And it got me to think a lot about my role as a daughter of a high school 16-year-old, and the difference I think and I hope I could still make for her. Because the state of teenage girls in our day and age is not good. It's probably been more difficult than ever before to be a high school girl in the United States. Now, of course, it's never easy to be a high school girl. There's always the challenges of dating, the pressures and the anxieties of going off and getting accepted to a good college, and all the challenges of girls can be mean to girls, much meaner to each other than boys are to other boys. But it seems to have gotten worse in the last several years. It's a lonely burden of being a teenage girl in America today. There was a great article that I read in the Wall Street Journal by 2 therapists entitled "The Lonely Burden of Today's Teenage Girls." And they conducted interviews with teenage girls from all over the country. And they also interviewed parents and therapists and high school counselors and teachers. And they found something that tied in all these interviews. There was one element connecting all their lives that they believe, and I think we all agree, has made life so much more difficult for high school teens today. And it all goes back to 2007. 2007, the year that most of our current B'nai Mitzvah were born in. In some ways, it seems like forever ago. But some of us may remember, why was 2007 such an important year when it relates to raising our kids today? And why has it become so much more difficult for high school kids today since 2007? That was the year the first iPhone was introduced. You remember the iPhone 1, the one you wouldn't be caught dead with today, but the one you were excited with at the time to go to the cell phone store and buy because of all the gadgets and all the apps and all the incredible things you can do. The era of the smartphone had begun. And since that time, the statistics are frightening, especially when it comes to our girls. Teenage girls today, because of the ever-present smartphone, are not out in the world as much as they used to. They're not out in the world solving problems by themselves. They aren't as self-sufficient as they were before 2007. They're less likely today in 2020 than they were in 2006 to possess a driver's license, to work outside the home, or to even date. And when they do eventually go off to college one day, it's been found today in 2020, the highest number ever, over 62% of freshmen at colleges across this country have experienced overwhelming anxiety or panic attacks, the highest ever. It was found that teenage high school girls, they may not tell us, but they often sleep with their iPhones, often being woken up in the middle of the night just to see if someone liked their selfie, or if they got a response to a text, or something they put on Snapchat, or something they posted on TikTok. In a sense, modern teenage high school girls are never truly alone or never truly with others, as they put more and more of an emphasis on virtual friends than on real friends. And there's a reason that last year the American Association of Pediatrics now warns that too much social media use directly can lead to depression and anxiety. In a recent survey by the Pew Research Center, they found that 36% of high school girls in America today report being extremely anxious every single day. It's something I've seen often. Something really does seem to change when they go from middle school to high school, as our high school girls seem to be even more captivated with how much they can do on their phones. The survey that was taken with girls all across the country found that many of them actually spend now Saturday nights home alone surfing social media rather than going out and spending time with their friends. It's something I've seen with my own daughter and her friends. It's like they went out more when they had all those bar mitzvah parties every week than they do now as high school girls. Many of the teens who were interviewed articulated that they know that social media has its drawbacks, but they can't seem to live without it. They know how drawn in those app makers make them feel. They can't put it down, but yet they continue to go onto their phone. And yes, we all know that the smartphone screens are unavoidable, not just for our teenagers, but for all of us as well. I know all of us, including myself, struggle to put that phone down, whether I'm having dinner with my family, lunch with a friend, or even driving. It's a challenge for all of us. But imagine what a challenge it is for our young who have now grown up in a world where they never could imagine anything without those smartphones. They've never known a world in which they didn't have this incredible phone that, as you know, has more technology in it than was used in the spacecraft that landed on the moon in 1969. They don't know a world without it. And so it makes sense that they rarely ever live their daily moments without that phone, looking at it or in their hands. It was actually found that the average high school teenage girl in America today spends over 7 hours a day on her phone. You know, maybe 2006 in the age of flip phones and BlackBerries wasn't so bad. And here's one more very frightening statistic that I hate to even share because it's truly depressing. At the time, the highest level of teenage girl suicide ever recorded was in 1993. And from 1994 onward, the rate of suicide in America today amongst teenage girls steadily declined until, you guessed it, 2007, when those rates again started to skyrocket to now the highest rates recorded in modern American history. It's sad. It's scary. Is there anything that we as parents or grandparents or any of us who care about the future of our community or the future of our own precious daughters, is there anything we can do? And let me add, by the way, I don't mean to pick on our girls today. With video game addiction, there are many, many problems for our teenage boys as well. but that's for another sermon and perhaps many sermons. But for girls today, Kobe Bryant got me to think a lot about what is our role to help our high school teenage girls. Is there anything we can do? In our Torah portion today, something remarkable happens. We all know the story, whether we heard the Torah portion this morning or when we celebrate Passover, when we get to the Sea of Reeds, the sea parts, and our people are able to walk on dry land. God has stopped the Egyptian army, and there's a chance for them to finally be free. And yet, according to the Midrash, no one steps into the dry land. They're all still afraid. None of them still have the faith or conviction to believe that those waters won't come crashing down upon them. So no one walks in. Not Moses, not Miriam, not Aaron. They all stand there frozen. No one has the conviction or the faith to do the right thing, except finally a man named Nachshon, according to the Midrash, begins to walk in, and the people see what he does, and they start to do it themselves. Maybe we can learn from Nachshon. We know the problem. We see the statistics. We see what is happening with high school girls today. We may see it in our own families, or we may see it with a niece, or we may see it with a girl on our street. We see the problems. Can we be like Nachshon? Can we do something about it? Can we have the conviction and the faith to do the right thing? And that right thing may be different for every family. For some, it may mean declaring a tech-free zone in their home. For others, it may mean tech-free times or curfews when the phones must be turned off. For some, it may simply mean modeling the behavior we want our teenagers to follow. If they always see us on our phones, never having time to put it down, then of course they're going to do the same. The loss of Kobe Bryant reminded me that perhaps the most effective way we can be like Nachshon, and perhaps in many ways like Kobe Bryant seemed to be in the last few years, and to get our girls off their phones more is to get involved with what they're involved in, to find new interests we can share with them. Kobe Bryant found the time to teach and coach his daughter's middle school basketball team. For some of us, it may mean continuing to coach. For others, it may mean a hobby, a sport, or an interest. For others, it may simply mean taking daddy, mom, or mommy, daughter trips with them. For others, it may mean theater or art. Whatever that may mean, let us not think once those middle school years are over, we're done. And now they can go off to their friends and to social media. Because no matter how many times our teenage girls may tell us to leave them alone or to slam the door and say, get out of the rooms, and that's never happened to me. Let us remember they really do need us more than ever. They're really, truly never too old to have a girl dad or a girl mom. Because while times have certainly changed, girls' basic needs haven't changed. They still need to be loved, and they still need to be protected. Because the role of good parents has always been the same: to protect their daughters from our society's harmful elements while connecting them to life's goodness and beauty. In an increasingly complicated world, perhaps the best answer is still a very simple one: unplug more often and do the things families have done since the beginning of time. Tell stories, get involved, work and play together, and talk through life's big questions. Because when they get to high school, can we still be the first place they go to with their challenges and important questions, not to the internet or to social media? Because the more we plan an active and healthy role in their lives, the more likely it is they will still come to us. The more likely it is they will put their phones down. And the more likely it is that they will connect to life's goodness and beauty. My friends, can we be more like Nachshon in a day and age in which we perhaps need more conviction and faith as parents more than ever before? That's our challenge. Let us not be afraid to do so. Let us take a stand now before it's too late. Shabbat shalom, everyone.